Hi everybody, this is Karla from Written Word Calligraphy, and today we are going to learn how to make these flourished holiday cards with a wax seal and some watercolor. So what you're going to need are a brush and watercolor. You're also going to need these Strathmore mixed media cards. I love these cards because they come with the card and the envelope, and the texture of the paper is really good for watercolor, but it's smooth enough for calligraphy as well as flourishing. You'll be needing a pencil and an eraser to just outline the text, and the calligraphy pen and nib. I'm using the Nico G and the dual purpose pen that is available in our mini starter kit, as well as the Daler-Rowney pearlescent liquid acrylic ink in the gold. I have a little bit of water here for the watercolor, and the wax seal. We've got the laurel crest and the glue gun sealing wax so that we could stamp that wax seal after everything is said and done. Are you guys ready? Let's get started. The thing we're going to do is to load our pen with ink. We're using the Daler-Rowney pearlescent, and then we're going to do some practice strokes. With pointed pen calligraphy, whenever you're pressing down with your nib, you create thick strokes. So we're going to practice creating some small little accents that will become branches. So you're lifting them up back towards you in order to create these strokes. And then we're going to create some S curves. So it's almost like a letter S. And so what you press down, and then about 4/5 the way up, now down you go up with very light stroke. So these are going to be elements we're going to be using throughout the card. And then we're going to do the opposite one, which is more of an oval flourish. Pressing down, 4/5 the way down, lift up with very light pressure. And then we're also going to do some pine branches that are going to be very fine strokes, so there's not a ton of pressure throughout. And then we're going to draw some holly leaves. And of course some berries. And these are going to be the strokes and illustrations we're going to be using throughout the artwork. Whenever I'm doing the actual illustration itself, I like to start off with writing it in first. So I'm going to write the word Happy Holidays using a pencil so that I know exactly where things are going to be. And then we're going to be adding all the decor all around. The next step is to trace over the pencil marks with the calligraphy pen and ink. We're going to be writing Happy Holidays. So if you recall, we had those different strokes earlier, and what we're going to do is take some of these elements and add them to the card. So I usually like to start with some of these elements first, like the S's and the ovals. So that's what I'm going to start with first. You can look for a little corner that you can start with, just like this one, and start with the S curves. And then pair them with an oval shape that's in the opposite direction. So it almost looks like a little heart. Then you can add additional flourishes, add some extra pizzazz to this card. And then go to the next corner and repeat the process, starting with the ovals and the S curves. And then later on, we're going to go and add even more elements like the hollies and the pine needles. Once you're done finishing up your ovals and your S curves, now it's the time to draw some pine branches. So these ones, you start off with the branch itself first and then add on some fine pine needles. So you want to keep these strokes very light because they need to be super thin, so there's not a ton of pressure as you're drawing them. You can do them in a downstroke motion or in an upstroke motion. You could also vary these branches with these smaller dotted ones, almost like little wheat stalks. That way you'll add a different kind of leaves and branches, adding some beautiful variances between the designs. And then you want to repeat that process all throughout the card itself, all around the word happy holidays or whatever greeting you've chosen to write. Once you're done with the pine needles and the wheat branches, you can also now add the holly branches, and these ones look great in pairs. And after you've done them together, you can also add in some berries. You can also draw berries on their own. They're really fun to draw. Just little circles, and usually at least in a pair or even 3 of them. It's up to you. And depending on how you draw them, you might feel like you might need to add some more branches here and there too, of like pine needles. Just take, your own discretion and get creative. You can fill it up with lots of different pieces. Just make sure you vary them. Like you add, a holly branch here, and beside it, like a pine needle, you add some berries, and then alternate them again with some pine needles, like all throughout. So no 2 items are right next to each other to match. Another thing I like to add throughout as a finishing touch are just little dots around, so it's almost like extra magical, like little snow flakes or glitter going in through the card. And because we're using metallic ink here, it'll just add an extra little spice to the card. And once you're done, you'll erase the pencil marks very lightly throughout. Make sure everything is dry. And then we're going to be painting the illustration. So just, get a really wet brush going with some green, and then paint over the holly branches very lightly. If it's too pigmented, you can add some more water and then dab it with a paper towel. This will really help create like just a light tint to the branches themselves. And then once you're done with the greens, next thing you want to do is to actually paint the berries. So the berries are just a little bit of a red, and then of course you can even dot them without drawing the berries themselves. Just dot them throughout the illustration, see where it fits and balances all throughout your card. And once you're done, the next step is going to be wax sealing. So you'll need a glue gun. This is a dual heat one, and sealing wax as well as the wax seal. This is the Laurel Crest one. You'll want to have the setting in the low heat, and once it's fully heated, about 2 to 3 minutes, you'll want to create a 1/2 inch circle and then press your wax seal in. Make sure it's in the right direction. And after about 15 seconds, you can lift it up, and now you have your holiday card with an envelope with the wax seal. Perfect, you're all set.